Welcome to the RNA Outdoors podcast, fueled by Ripcord Arrow Rest and First Light Hunting Apparel. At RNA, we are public land DIY conservationists that love to share our passion for the outdoors. So join us and our team as we interview professionals in the industry to share insight knowledge that helps make hunters and anglers more successful. Hey listeners, subscribers, and fellow outdoorsmen and women. This is your host, Lucas Paw, and I'm excited to tell you about some of the sponsors that continue to help make this podcast not only happen, but grow and thrive in this digital world of audio content. This podcast is brought to you by Ripcord Arrow Rest, the bow hunter's #1 fall-away rest on the market. Ripcord is known for 100% full-time arrow containment and their patented drop-dead brake system that eliminates launcher bounce back. Best of all, Ripcord is backed by their rock-solid guarantee. If the original owner has a part break for any reason, it will be repaired or replaced at no charge. And did I mention? Ripcord is located in southwest Montana, where all their products are made with pride in America. Check them out at ripcordarrowrest.com and on their social media feeds. This podcast is brought to you by First Light Clothing and Hunting Apparel. Born in the Rockies in central Idaho, First Light's mission is to create simple, yet proven, versatile gear that provides comfort and performance in any situation while working to promote the pursuit of ethical hunting and stewardship. I recently joined the First Light Pro Staff team and have continued to be impressed year after year in their innovations in engineering of merino wool fabrics. 10 years ago, they started putting out wool fabrics with camo patterns, and immediately this changed the game. Since then, they offer multiple layering systems and kits in various proprietary patterns and continue to raise the bar with their competition. Find them online at firstlight.com or under their social media feeds. Go farther, stay longer. Welcome back, listeners. Jason and I are back home from our previous trip to Dallas. We spent about 3.5 days there at the Dallas Safari Club. Had a really good time, and we're kind of reflecting back on our trip and thought what we would do is give you all listeners just kind of a little bit of a cliff note on what's going to be coming out in the next couple of months based on our visit in the podcasts that we did on that trip over in Dallas. So, really exciting trip. Had a great time, Jason.
Yeah, man. Weatherby Awards as well as the DSC show. Man, that was really awesome. Absolutely awesome.
And speaking of the Weatherby Award, that was kind of the chief reason why you and I were there is, Craig had invited us to come and be a part of that award with him and be at the dinner. And, we were there with basically everybody and anybody in the industry was there to support Craig. It was just awesome to be there.
I guess you could say for the hunting world, who wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we met some cool people, but, you and I talked to Adam Weatherby, Jim Shockey, who else? I mean, there was pretty much everybody in the industry that was in the hunting world was there.
Yeah, Gray Thornton sat behind us from Wild Sheep.
I forgot about Gray.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people there. I mean, the list could go on and on, right? You talked to the gentleman from the Hunting Consortium, Bob Kern.
Yep.
So there was just a lot of neat people there that you think of all the experiences that all of them, have either had or, even think about they've touched Craig to some extent throughout their career, which I think was neat when you looked across the room. I'm sure Craig invited everyone there for a reason because at some point throughout his career, I'm sure they've all been a part of what he's done and what he's accomplished. So
yeah, there was generals, you name it. It was happening in that room. It was it was phenomenal. It was.
Yeah, so kind of what we're going to do, and we're just going to spend a couple minutes, and what we thought we would do for the listeners is just give you all, like I said, just kind of a little bit of an idea of what's going to be coming out here in the next couple months. Jason and I completed, I think, a record 8 podcasts in 2 days, which was a busy couple days. But I think what we did is we jammed in a lot of really good topics and a lot of good guests, and we just wanted to give everyone just a heads up on kind of how that went. So first podcast we did, and to kind of tee it up, was with Conrad Everts, who is really the guy behind the Craig Boddington Endorsed Outfitters program. I think you'll hear in the podcast kind of how it started, but Conrad kind of has been linked with Craig for about the last 10 to 15 years, doing a lot of his videography and
production work.
Yeah, production work with Craig. And what a neat program. And I think what resonated with me was as you walked around Dallas Safari, you saw certain outfitters that had the endorsement, and it kind of gives you that warm feeling that, Craig's been there, vetted them, and that's really what the Endorsed Outfitters program is about.
Absolutely. The one thing that he had mentioned to us really fast for everybody is, quality versus quantity. They want to make sure that everybody understands that the people that they deal with are family-based quality experiences. And they were mentioning it as the BEO, Boddington Endorsed Outfitters. They were going to limit it to only 100 outfitters. I mean, to me, that's amazing that they would limit their opportunities. But once again, going back to quality versus quantity. And then they had, right now at this time, they only had under 50. But at the same time, they were able to touch over 500 species. I mean, if somebody wanted to go hunting something pretty much anywhere in the world, I mean, they had somebody that they had, wanted to recommend. And then when Craig jumped on just for a moment during the podcast, which everybody will have to listen to the whole thing to see that. But, his whole statement of, would I recommend this to my friends? I mean, to me, that touched me deeply, really, because I think of all the experiences that I've had, and some of them good with outfitters and some of them bad. But when I hear that from him, that makes me feel safer and more secure. I'm not saying that something can't go wrong with a recommendation like that, but at the same time, we had that experience with talking with a couple of the outfitters that made me feel like, hey, I'd go with these guys if I was wanting to go that direction.
And to your point, I think they said they were like 54 outfitters. There was over 1,000 exhibitors, right, at DSC. So, I mean, you're talking, at that point, 5% of them have been vetted by Craig. So clearly quality is part of that. And to your point around the criteria, it was neat to not only see that on the website, but for Craig to come over, Conrad asked him, hey, what's your criteria for the endorsement? He says, would I recommend these outfitters to my friends? So I think that really sums it up. You can find more information about the Craig Boddington Endorsed Outfitters. I think it's at craigboddington.com, right? And then it'll take you to an interactive website, which allows you to search by continent, by species. Really neat system that they've got going, and you can hear more about that when we release that podcast.
And that kind of ties us into to the next one up on the queue, right?
Yeah. So number 2, we met with the president of the DSC Foundation, who is actually also the past DSC actual president of the actual the Safari Club, Richard Cheatham. Richard was a very interesting guy in the fact that he had a lot of history back to when DSC broke apart from SCI in 1982. Kind of gave us a little bit of idea, kind of where the name came from. He talked a lot about the convention in terms of, the number of exhibitors, the planning that goes in behind that. And then, of course, he talked about the foundation, which we talked about volunteers in the membership process, and just a wealth of knowledge. Richard was definitely the right guy for us to talk about kind of the convention and the foundation.
And, being with the NRA and the NRA Foundation, hearing him talk about DSC and DSC's foundation, it was pretty exciting stuff for me. But I have to say to all the listeners out there, you'll want to listen to that show. But at the next level is talk about the show. Oh, my goodness. I mean, like you said, basically 1,000 exhibitors there, 70,000 people going through the place. In my opinion, for an outdoor enthusiast, somebody that wants to hunt somewhere in the world, I mean, we're talking everything from prairie dogs in Wyoming to, Marco Polo sheep, in Tajikistan. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was everything and anything and everything in between for a hunter. So that was my first time at that show, and I would tell everybody from, the bottom of my heart that if you're interested in hunting, man, you should go to that show because it was off the charts, way cool.
Yeah, and the feel of it, very low, felt like low pressure. The exhibitors were there, obviously trying to market their hunts and prepare for the following year. But, my first time at that show too, and definitely exceeded my expectations in terms of the quality of the show and the exhibitors. Just the feeling there felt really comfortable being in the room, and hats off to Richard, Kim Rappley, which we talked to him a little bit, who is over the chapter coordinators. There's 9 current chapters around DSC. They're looking to expand. So just a neat organization out there that's, again, trying to push similar conservation that we're all trying to do with a lot of the memberships we're a part of. So
for sure.
Okay, so day 2 was a busy day for us, and to say the least. I think we did 6 podcasts on day 2, but I kicked off the morning with Rob Shaw, who is the president and CEO of Skullhooker. So most of you may or may not be familiar with the company, but they're based in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and basically what they manufacture are European skull mounts. So, one of the things Rob talked to was the price of taxidermy right now is not getting any cheaper.
Oh my gosh!
And you go shoot, a tar in New Zealand, and you want a life size or even a shoulder mount. I mean, you're in the thousands of dollars, but he has designed a way to showcase, European mounts, not only European mounts, but also, skull caps on a lot of animals that have antlers in a different way. And, part of what he does is he's got some product lines that allow you to, basically drill into the wall 2 holes, put a base plate on, and there's actually a swiveling piece of equipment that goes on there that allows you to showcase, your European mount. And they're in different sizes. There's also a new product line that he developed, which is called the Trophy Tree, which I think is kind of cool. That allows you to hang, let's say you go to Africa and shoot 6 or 7, antelope plains game species. You can hang those off this tree, and it doesn't take up a lot of wall space, which is another reason why I think Skullhooker is quite an innovative thing. Is it allows you to take stuff and there's actually a table hooker as well that you can set them. I know Wyatt's buck is on that as well. So
I've got a few. You kind of turned me on to their products, and I ordered some, and boy, I really do like them, and they're really easy to install. Goes up fast, and it's got a lot of different angles. So my boy's got his nice blacktail, which actually was shot pretty close to where those guys live, just the other side of the border in California, because they're based in Klamath Falls, Oregon. But yeah, it was really, really neat company and neat products. So check them out if you get an opportunity.
Yeah, so we'll release that one. Rob's a really neat guy, and you can kind of learn a little more about how to install them, the pricing, and then some of the new product lines that they're offering in 2018. So you can find that information at skullhooker.com. Okay, right after that, it was funny, actually, right next door to the Skullhooker booth was the First Light booth. So I was able and fortunate to meet up with a couple employees of First Light, Ryan Callahan, who is the Director of Conservation and Media Relations, and then Greg Farrell, who is more or less on the operations design around a lot of the R&D stuff. We actually walked around and we're pretty mobile and walked through all the new releases that First Light is put out this year. So at this show, this is the first year First Light has had a storefront where they're actually selling garments And two, they were showcasing 34 new styles, which was their biggest release since the company's inception.
Crazy.
So to come to a trade show and basically take 34 new pieces of material and garment and showcase those was pretty incredible. Just to kind of highlight a few of those, they have a couple new outerwear systems. One was a soft shell system called the Catalyst, really a kit used for 3 seasons. Again, the intent of that is to have something that you can wear kind of over your base layers and even over your mid layer apparel. They also had the new Seek jacket, which Seek stands for Southeastern Alaska. So if you think about if you're in Alaska and you're on Kodiak Island, right, what are you thinking? It's probably going to be wet 90% of the time. So that's really what that kit was designed for.
That was a neat new product that they had out. I mean, I even did the old scratch test because that's kind of my indicator. And really for we'll call it a water-resistant system. I mean, that was about as quiet as you could possibly get. Really cool-looking stuff. But that's not what's super exciting to me. You already know what's coming up next.
Yeah, so what really, I think, when it was in the center of their release booth, but it was the Chamberlain down jacket that they're putting out. It's an 800 fill down. That's got the 37.5 Kekona material. So really what that does is it helps pull moisture away. It's got the DWR outer fabric, again, which really limits, the sound. It's, UV resistant, a lot of things. But, down is one of those things that a lot of companies haven't really mastered. And this has been in quite a few years in research and development. And this year they're releasing that down coats. I think this is going to be a game changer in terms of, I always was kind of concerned a little bit with First Light in the fact that if I wanted to go to the North Slope and hunt, muskox or caribou, there's really not that next level of garment that'll do that.
Yes.
And this takes you to that.
And let me tell you, that First Light is a cool new company and it's got some neat stuff. And this particular jacket, I wear all kinds of different stuff. But that jacket to me reminds me of you could pack it down into a small little compact bag. They said it's 2 ounces lighter than the comparable thing on the market.
Correct.
And has more down by 20 or so percent.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me means a lot because I'm thinking, okay, that can be your pillow at night. That can be in your backpack when you get up on the top of the mountain after hiking up there. You put that on and keep yourself nice and toasty. And then, I don't know. That was one of those products that I was just like, wow. That's all I could say is I think that's going to be a game changer. Yeah,
and then just kind of lastly, they've redesigned some of their merino with a spandex blend, so Merino X. They've also come out with the new Arrow wool design that's got basically taken into consideration a nylon versus a poly, so you don't get some of the pilling. So really, they've listened to their end users, they're listened to feedback, and they're making changes, and really excited to put some of this garment to use in 2018. So you can check them out at firstlight.com, and again, we'll send that. We'll have that podcast out probably in the next few weeks because I like to get that out so some of the folks going to the trade shows can see and also feel some of those fabrics. Okay, the fifth podcast we did, and you kind of set up, and is kind of a mutual friend, someone that you know, and someone that I've known in the industry but never got a chance to meet. But Backcountry BC and Beyond, who was run by Dustin Rowe. And again, most know Dustin, think of extreme, throw a pack on your back for 10 days, going to BC in your, in extreme weather.
Killing big sheep, baby, killing big sheep.
Yeah. So we got to sit down with Dustin and both Dan Watson, who is kind of his right-hand man, operations manager, and we just kind of talked about, their business. He's taken on a new concession. He's now basically started his own entity here, and he's kind of doing his own thing, and it sounds pretty exciting for him to do that.
Absolutely. I met Dustin years ago, and a young guy and very enthusiastic, and let me tell you, if you want to kill a sheep, he's the guy that can make it happen. He set his record, and now it's growing pretty fast because he's now got a whole concession. But he said he's out of 121 sheep hunts, they've killed 117. I mean, think about that. Now that's over 10 years, right? But talk about success ratio.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And who knows, of the 4 that actually didn't succeed, was that 10 days of completely blown out weather?
Yeah.
Was that, a guy
Missed shots, maybe.
a guy that missed multiple times? But wow, what a success ratio Dustin has. And Dustin has always been, to me, the epitome of that backcountry hardcore individual. And, Dustin's a small guy like myself, but I watch him put on those packs that look like they're 100-plus pounds, and I'm thinking, man, how does this kid do it? But he is just an absolute machine. And with his new concession now in BC, I think he is unstoppable. I mean, now he's got moose, caribou, goats, of course, sheep.
Yeah.
I think backcountry BC and beyond is going to just skyrocket, and I'm really super excited to see that watch that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll run into Dustin at the Sheep Show and then, of course, at the Western Hunting Expo. But we'll try to maybe time that podcast and we send it out to kind of help promote what he's doing. But, yeah, Backcountry BC and beyond, you can find him online. And, just a neat little podcast we
Dustin
did with those
Rowe.
guys.
All you got to do is Google the kid. And, man, let me tell you, you're going to be impressed by that guy.
Yeah. So then in the afternoon, we were able to catch up with a couple of friends that we made during the course of the show. Both Jay Leyendecker and Phil Massaro were 2 gentlemen that we met at our table that Craig
Correct.
had set us with at the Weatherby Award dinner. Phil's wife, Suzanne, was also there as well.
We won't talk about her spilling wine on me, will we?
No, we'll leave that out.
Okay, we'll leave that out
into the podcast that we actually did. But, it was neat that, these guys, pretty busy guys, come to figure out they got a lot on their plate, a lot going on. And it was neat that they were able to carve out some time for us to just sit down and really just shoot it with them, right? That's all we did.
That was our campfire concession speech that we just went through and had a great time.
Yeah.
I had heard of Phil, of course, because he writes. Actually, we'll say he is a gun journalist. Isn't that the term that Craig used?
Yeah. We may have to hold that against Phil one day.
We might have to hold that against him. But, he's an outdoor writer. He loves the outdoors. That's what he does. His wife does a lot of the videography work or photo shoots for him. He even credited her as being a much better camera person than he is. But that's how I knew Phil through the NRA, because he writes a lot of stuff for us. And really, once I met him, you could tell he's just a down-to-earth, cool, outdoor guy that likes doing all that stuff. But then it was funny because he and Phil he and Jay had that really goofy relationship. You know what? They were talking about they're going to Botswana, right?
Yeah, they purchased a Botswana hunt that day when we saw them. So
yeah, they're going to go goof around there, and that's going to be a little bit of fun. But Jay, to me, strikes me as the guy that lives the dream, right?
Took a risk, right?
I mean, he's a young guy, and let me tell you, when he started talking to us, I mean, I didn't necessarily know him, and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, this guy's been there, done that, and the stuff that he knows is just off the chart. I mean, now, who's he working for? He's
Hall & Hall is a large ranch brokerage company. I think they've got an office in Montana. He works, I think, in the Texas area now, basically doing the same thing. But when you hear the name Hall & Hall and he said that, I was like, okay, we're not dealing with the 20-acre ranch house. We're dealing with the 45,000-acre ranch with the 33,000 square foot home, which was like, the guest home. I mean, these are multi-million-dollar, estates that he deals with. So,
and what really surprised me about Jay is his early career was, he said, I always wanted to be a professional hunter. And so what'd he do? He turns 18, 21, packs his bags, and takes off for Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people do that? I mean, it's like, I always said I wanted to be in the outdoor industry, and so that was my goal, was to do that. But, to actually just say, you know what, I want to be a professional hunter, and just pack your bags as an American, and poof, take off. And next thing you know, you're guiding in one of the best concessions in the world for big game hunting. He's hunting the Big Five all the time, and that's how he really got his claim to fame. So I take my hat off to the guy. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Yeah. He's what everybody dreams that, one of these days when I'm going to do that, He just said, no, I'm doing that,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that we won't give up all the secrets, but both Jay and Phil talk about how they met Craig and really their relationship with Craig, which I think is neat because it runs pretty deep for those guys in
Following
terms
the
of
dream.
Yeah, I mean hunting. It was funny when we were walking out of on Friday. We were walking out of the convention, and on the big screen, what was Phil on the
Tracks
DSC
Across Africa.
Tracks Across Africa,
Yeah.
and he was hunting a Cape buffalo, and we actually literally saw the take shot, and then the celebration afterwards. So that was neat to see that, and just to connect with those guys. Like you said, it was kind of a campfire discussion. But, yeah, we'll release that one, and you all want to hear that. I think there's a lot of good stories, a lot of jokes. We were plugging at each other. And
yeah, you're
going
to have to listen to that one to get all the innuendos off of that one.
Just a lot of fun. So, and then we were kind of closing out our day. We had a couple more left. We were fortunate to be able to sit down with Frontier Safaris, both another Craig Boddington endorsed outfitter, and also we sat with the four of them at our table as well. So
Yes.
there was Scott and Freddie Burchell, who are the partners in the business, and then there were another gentleman and his wife were there as a part of the Frontier Safari group. But it was neat to be able to carve out some of their time and sit down. It was kind of funny because, they're a Craig Boddington endorsed outfitter. So, we know Craig's been there. It was funny. They were actually referring to him as Uncle Craig.
So
as they were talking, you could already see this family relationship. And that's something that kind of came full circle in that discussion with them is about how they are a family.
Absolutely.
And on the front of their brochure, it's their family. It's Scott and Freddie and the rest of the family along, obviously, in talking about Craig in that. But just a neat little outfit, and I think a place that would be neat to go check out sometime in the future.
Well, and you said a neat little. I kind of probably have to recategorize that because actually they have 3 different ranches. They're kind of a destination location hunt. For me, it's a really kind of a neat thing because they have their main operation is in the Cape of South Africa, and they said that that's a huge concession that they have there. Their family, which this is something that we kind of both found out, and we'll just give you a snippet. But if you think of the last name and then you think of zebra, now you could probably tie together, possibly, without listening to the podcast, how an animal like a zebra got named. So that was some interesting information. But the cool part to me, besides the Cape concession that they have, is they had a couple of places up in Namibia. Namibia is always been considered a very rural place to hunt. So for those people that are thinking about hunting, so say you go to California, which everybody knows is a pretty populated area, to hunt black-tailed deer, this would be the South Africa of the hunting world. Then now you look at Namibia. Well, Namibia would be like going to Wyoming population-wise. It's a very rural setting. But at the same time, they have 2 fantastic ranches, and their packages that they have available for sale really were some really great financial packages, and a lot of what I call bang for your buck when it comes to Africa. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know that the podcast is going to be awesome. The guys were really great, and like you said, listening to them refer to Uncle Craig, he's part of their family. And that's really one of the things when you go back to, the Boddington endorsed outfitters, is that's kind of one of his criteria. He really likes those groups that are, family owned and the whole family's involved in it. So to me, it makes me feel so much more comfortable because like Eland Safaris, which, I know you're going to have them on later on, sometime on the show here in the next couple of months, you're going to see them. They're the same way. Their dad started it, the brothers took it over, and now it's blossomed to where it is. So super exciting stuff, and I think everybody's going to love the Frontier Safaris experience.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get that one out. And again, their web is www.frontiersafaris.com if you want to check them out before we get that out. But again, just a neat podcast, like you said, and excited to get to know them a little better and maybe one day, hopefully, visit their safari. Okay, and then lastly, we rounded out our trip. We actually were out having dinner, and we kind of tell the story in the podcast. But we ran into two gentlemen from a company called Osprey Global. They're actually an optics company. Funny enough, they were actually a bore sight company, which is something we didn't even get into in the discussion. But they actually have the patent on the original bore sight that was designed many, many years ago. But Will Burke and Luke Henry were basically the folks at the booth. Will is the son of the owner, and then Luke, I think, was in some type of product development with them. But it was just neat getting to know them a little bit, and then we went to their booth on Friday and got to look at some of their products. And they were telling us basically about their scopes. Next thing you know, you're looking at 56 objective, 20 power scopes, binoculars, laser rangefinders. I mean, they are what I viewed as a cost-effective, optics company with a lot of features that you get with some of the higher-end optics at a very, very good price.
I mean, it was amazing to me how many different product items they had. Their product line was way far and beyond whatever I ever imagined. But I have to bring in some of the fun side of the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, Will, he being the owner's son, which Luke always pointed out. Hey, look, being the owner's son, that's not actually a title of a position in a company.
Yeah.
But that's how he introduced himself. I could tell before we were getting ready to do the podcast. I mean, he was running around there and he looked nervous. I looked over at Luke. I said, "Is he afraid to do a podcast?" He's like, "Yeah, I think he might be a little bit."
Well, he's afraid because his heroes are all that run podcasts, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh man, his man crush on Joe Rogan. Joe, if you're listening, I'm pre-warning you. You want any products from Osprey, just got to contact Will. He'll trade you out for supplements any day of the week.
Just about anything. But it was a neat discussion. We spent about 20 to 30 minutes with them and just got a better understanding of a couple products that they feel are kind of their flagship products. And, again, they do a lot of gun shows and they do a lot of trade shows is really where you'll find their products. But
best deals, he said, if you want a good deal. And they're back to that family organization, right? He said that they have like 40 different families that are all working for them. And that's what they do. They go to gun shows and they sell optics at gun shows. And I don't want to steal the thunder, but that AR platform scope that they showed you, I think that's a pretty cool thing for the price point. I mean,
absolutely.
It's nothing out there like that.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps up the discussion that we just wanted to have today. So we did 8 podcasts in a couple days, and our plan is to kind of set up a series. And when we get these out in the next couple months, with that, Sheep Show's coming up in a few weeks. We got some folks there that we got lined up already to catch there, and then about a month after that, you and I will be driving to Salt Lake for the Western Hunting Expo, which is probably kind of the one of the funner, I think, expos, just based on the fact of the amount of hunts given away, and a lot of the guys that you and I commonly know in the industry are at the expo. So,
and the NRA is going to be there. I'm working actually for the NRA at that show, but man, oh man, that show is going to be really fun to go to.
But to just kind of wrap up our trip, this was, again, really about, Craig and being there for him. And
BEO.
And just fortunate to have been at the Weatherby Award dinner and was able to celebrate with him and really just for his accomplishments and what he's done. His speech was second to none, and I was able to video that, and I'm going to work on editing and maybe put out a little publication of that. But was just a neat week to be there, and just had a lot of fun, and look forward to getting these podcasts out, and a lot of good information is going to be coming out with these. So
for those that thought anything that we just talked about is cool, which I think a lot of you will, you got to check out the main show. This is just a snippet to let everybody in and, kind of do a little fun rerun, because it's all so fresh. And while we might be a little jet lagged from flying all over and changing time zones, I have to say, man, that was a fun experience that we had. I mean, great show, great people. I mean, okay, food service probably wasn't that great, but we won't go into that story.
Hey, depends on where you eat. Everything else was good. Everywhere we went had elk, except the House of Blues. So.
Yeah, House of Blues. What blues it was.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks again, Jason. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in on our just little campfire session here. We just wanted to, again, give you all a heads up on what's coming out, and we'll plan to basically put these out in series in the next couple months, and hope you all subscribe and listen to the RNA Outdoors podcast. Thanks, Jason.
Rock and roll, baby.
All right. Take care, listeners.
Peace out.